go ahead and get started. I'm Shay Heron with the Highland Group in Arizona. I run about a 400 transaction a year team here in Prescott, Arizona. And I'm really excited to be here today with Andrea. She is Andrea Ferry Daniels is her name, and she is the CEO of Rookie to Rainmaker and a certified guide for exactly what to say. And she's going to be speaking with us today on lead generation and high impact conversations. And I'll just give you a quick overview of her that I have as far as her business background and what her expertise is and why she's joining us today. She has 25 years of expertise in lead generation and high impact conversations, a strong foundation in the real estate industry, and a growing client base across multiple sectors. Andrea helps businesses attract and convert leads using data-driven strategies and a variety of tools just beyond just the phone. She's a passionate and innovative leader and recognized as a top speaker and consultant in her field. And in today's session, she's going to be covering how to pick up the phone and win more business from cold to sold. So really excited to be here with you today, Andrea, and hearing about all of your techniques to get more people to pick up the phone and convert them into more leads and then close deals for our businesses.
Thank you so much, Shelley, for the warm introduction. I'm very grateful for everyone who tuned in today at 12 o'clock Eastern Time, 11 o'clock Central Time. So I spent, as Shelley said, most of my career prospecting on the phone, whether it's financial services or in real estate. And something that I realized is that when people might be saying no, it's also possible they could be saying not now. So in the last, I would say probably 5 or 6 years, I've spent a lot of time in a lot of agents, real estate professionals databases. And there's a lot of leads that are paid for either by the Rainmaker or by the agent that are considered archived or dead leads. And, oh, they had an agent, or, oh, they already bought a house. So when I first started my company a number of years ago, and I was personally paying for the leads, I realized that there's no such thing as a dead lead. We're just going to call it back with a different intro, because I was spending $900, which was a lot back then, as during COVID, on leads that we would literally squeeze every single lead until there was nothing left from it. So if I can get a live person on the phone, I mean, I've got a $290,000 buyer from the wrong phone number. If any type of person is going to pick up the phone, if it's a human being, I'm going to try and find a way to help them. And sometimes it's not always a real estate transaction. So
that's a fantastic viewpoint on archived leads. I actually just had an agent in a sales meeting yesterday say that she called an archived lead who said, well, I've already bought in Michigan, but my sister is looking in your area. Here's her number. I was like, hey, it's a huge win.
Exactly. So what I want you to think about when we go into some of this material today, just think when you're calling someone or you're reviving what we call a dead lead, because I don't think there is a such thing as a dead lead. It's someone who's just not ready now. How we can enter into conversations to revisit that, and how we can make the most of the conversations that we do have. So I'm going to share my screen and we are going to get into some fun today.
And I just want to make a quick note before you get too much further. Please feel free to unmute. This is an interactive call. We'd love to see your video. We'd love to engage with you throughout the session. If there's any questions you have, please just let us know. And if you're traveling or not able to show your video, we understand, but we'd love to see your face if you can.
Thank you so much, Shelley. Yes, with this class thrives on participation. It's not going to run like a presentation. It's going to run like a workshop. And the good news is I did all of the work ahead of time, and you get to shop for the nuggets that you'd like to implement into your business. And there's no wrong or right answers. It's how can we get better together? I always do believe it's messy before it's beautiful. So if there are some things and you come off mute or you put in the chat and we interact, I'm here to help you today. And it's important that you walk away with something that you can implement in your business immediately. With that being said, I am a certified guide for exactly what to say by Phil M. Jones. If you've read the book, that's great. We're going to be talking through some of that material today. And if you're looking to follow me on Instagram, sometimes I'll put some fun content out that you can apply in your business. That is Andrea is a Force. because I used to be an ISA, so we just took the ISA in there. Okay, so what we're going to learn today, we are going to learn ways to get back into the game with previous prospects. There's no such thing as a dead lead. We are going to understand how to effectively enter the conversation and reestablish rapport, whether we've never talked to them before and the lead came in a year ago, or if we're reconnecting with an old lead, getting back into the conversation. This also works on text message and email, not just phone calls or networking events, anytime we're re-entering conversations. And we are going to discover how to craft better questions that give you confidence in any old lead source. So before we get into the material today, what is the most important thing about all of you being here today? Now, this is the part where I'd like some interaction. And I'm ready to take notes, either in the chat or come off mute. Vanessa?
Hi, I'll go ahead and
Hi,
jump in.
Vanessa.
How's it going?
Good.
So I'm actually in a new market. I've been in the business for 7 years. I left the Bay Area. I'm now in Las Vegas. And I went from solo to being on a team. All that being said, I'm being fed very old leads. Okay, we're talking like 8 years old. Now, coming from being a solo agent, working my sphere because that's where I grew up, I'm now in a completely new market and don't have a sphere. And I'm like, okay, this is what I got, right? So new, just new to me. And especially working old leads, which is why I'm here, because I would like to know how to re-engage people who have been looking ages and ages and ages ago.
Well, the good news, Vanessa, is you showed up with the right person on the right call today. Thank you.
Right on.
Let me ask you a quick question. What do you understand about how long it takes to convert an online lead?
I'm getting around 7 touches before I get traction.
There we go. About 7 to 8 to 16 touches. I like that. Let me ask you a better question. What do you understand about, or what's your experience with how long, how far someone is out from buying when they go online?
I mean, my assumption is probably like 6 months.
6 months to 3, 4, 5, 6 years.
I mean, it could, right. Exactly. See, my thing too is that because I'm getting, I don't know if you're familiar with getting leads from Ylopo.
Yep.
But that's where these leads originated from. And so in my using Follow Up Boss, I'm able to see their activity or whatnot. And so when people who started 8 years ago are now starting to look, I can see that they're interacting. However, I can't, like when I'm reaching out, whether it be via text, phone call, they're not responding, but I know that they're interacting. So what is it that I can do to at least get somebody to pick up the phone and have a conversation with me?
Great.
Right?
So,
It's not even, and start that rapport.
So how can we gain traction from how we're entering the conversation to get them to respond? Perfect, Vanessa. Thank you so much for sharing. I have that written down. What are some other things that are important about being here today for some of the other folks in the crowd?
I will just share a couple of things that my sales team has been sharing with me. There's just a lot of, I think, uncertainty that's happening in the world right now, or in our country, I guess, with a new president who's doing a lot of, he's making a lot of changes. And so some people find that creates a lot of uncertainty. And so just for maybe any type of lead, what are ways to overcome some of that uncertainty, and share with them in an effective way that, we're, even if a recession comes, there's really the opportunity to buy is now, because there is more options in our marketplace today, things like that. Just like how to craft those conversations to be effective in getting unmotivated lead to be more motivated.
I'm like, do you have 90 minutes? We only have 30 or 45 today.
No.
So
Maybe 2 tips.
How to overcome uncertainty and the opportunity to buy is now. Could it be possible, Shelley, that for some of them, the opportunity is not now to buy?
Yeah, Which is understandable. And so
Right?
then, gracefully exiting the conversation with that being the conclusion is great. But that, I think, even like
I reject that.
crafting language around that would be great.
Yes. And then something, thank you for sharing that and being authentic and vulnerable and overcoming uncertainty. Before we need to overcome objections, we need to understand them. So how can we ask questions to create clarity around what's important to them about moving? Because hell or high water, no matter what's happening in the world, if someone needs to move to be closer to their parents because they're sick, or they need to move for work, they're going to still need to move. And we need to do a better job at pre-qualifying those people and finding those people who have the 5 Ds of why they need to move. So how can we ask better questions to understand their uncertainty and then give them options? Because in sales, our job is really being a professional mind maker upper. It's us and the client against what they're looking to do. It's not overcoming their objection. It's understanding it and then helping them give options, because we're the expert. Your team's the expert on what they could do next. And no matter what option they pick, it's making sure they understand the information regarding the potential solution, because closing sales isn't about closing more deals. It's about closing the gap in the information that they need to make a decision. And I think oftentimes we're rushing towards the end of the sale, not you, Shelley, personally, or your team, but we're trying to get to the end and we don't spend enough time in the curiosity stage to see what's important to them about making that move. And if people think we don't understand their problem, how likely are they going to be to trust us with a solution?
Yep.
Right. So perfect. Okay. Thank you so much. And sellers are nowhere to go or interest rates being high. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Shelley.
I was just going to say we had a question in the chat. So perfect.
Sellers with nowhere to go or interest rates being higher now. Okay. So I would say, no, is it true that they have nowhere to go? Or how important is it for them to go? And interest rates are higher. And then I would say, Paul, is it really about the interest rate, or is it more about the affordability with the payment they feel comfortable paying? Because they don't care that the 30-year average is 7.41%. They don't care that in 1983 interest rates were 11 or 14%. They just care about the last 5 years, don't they, Paul? Right? They care about those 3% interest rates that we had during COVID. So, no one wants another worldwide pandemic. So it's asking really good questions that, is it really the interest rate, or is it really affordability, payments, or some other sort of reason? And then with sellers, it's giving them options. They can pick another place to go, or they can continue maintaining a house that's too big for them, swimming in square footage, might not having kids living by, increase utility bills. So it's all about asking questions to be able to help them decide whether or not it's a good decision for them. And we might have to ask some questions that they haven't previously thought about, Paul. So we will get into that a little bit later. Okay. So these are questions that are supposed to come up one at a time, but we will go through them individually. So what is your biggest hurdle? You can either come off mute or you can put in the chat. What is your biggest hurdle when calling old leads or previous conversations that did not convert?
I'll just go since I'm unmuted. I'm not interested. No longer interested.
Okay. So you get blown off. Okay. Kind of like when you go to Nordstrom and you drove 25 minutes to get there and you went there for something specific, like maybe a pair of shoes or Veronica Beard jacket. And they're like, can I help you find something? You're like, nah, I'm good. Because we don't want to be sold to. Right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So how do we get back into conversations where we can open up the conversation, not sound like a salesperson? Or if we do get shut down, where do we pivot from there? Okay. What else? What else is the issue?
What else are you hearing, Vanessa, when you're calling those old leads? Can you think of other ones that you're hearing often?
Just not in any hurry, very picky. I've heard a couple of very picky people lately. And yeah, not in a rush.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm just looking, I just browse for fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for sharing, Vanessa. And if there's other folks who want to put it in the chat, go ahead and put it in the chat. Now, I would say, Shelley, because I know you're an operations person, do you know how often your team's reaching out to your old leads?
The way that we're structured, we have all of our new agents calling our archive pond. So it's all the people that everyone else has given up on. And so as far as like how often they're calling, You mean like number of contact attempts or like how much they're reaching out to them?
Contact attempts.
So good question. It kind of varies by lead source, but in an ideal world, we would have like, I mean, our average across the board is like 23 contacts to get to a deal. And so my guess would be if I looked at the archive pond, these people would have less than that because like somebody hit what they thought was a brick wall at some point. Oh, I have an agent. I'm not interested anymore. I can't find the right house, that type of thing. And they weren't able to overcome it.
Okay. So, and I would love in the background if you maybe happen to know how many people in that archive pond. I'm so curious about that.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot.
There's a lot. Give them all to me. I will charge you a 50% referral fee and convert them all. No, I'm kidding.
I mean,
because everyone's like people are like, well, I'm new. I only have the pond. I was like, that's great. Those are old leads. What you're going to do is you're going to find the top salespeople who probably had really good conversations, took good notes, and you're going to start by calling them because they're just not ready yet. That's why they're in the pond.
Wow, That's a great strategy. I love it.
Yes. So Ashlyn, no real estate plans at all. Pick up, hang up, don't know who you are. So Ashlyn, I would be curious to know what lead source that is. Are we just calling the phone book, or these are old online leads? We're talking prospecting, expires, for sale by owners. So some extra context. These are your sphere. That would be helpful to help answer that question. Old pond leads. Okay. So we can go through what an old pond lead would be. So the opening question, which we're going to go over today, Ashlyn, would depend on what that lead source is, depends on what I would say. And how we're going to introduce ourselves is going to hopefully have that person not hang up. There's no silver bullets. We're going to work on something that works most of the time with more of the people. So thank you for sharing that. And then Ashlyn, if you could put in the chat what lead source the old pond leads are. And then my third question is here, how are you currently entering into your conversations with previous prospects? So Vanessa, if you're open-minded to it and you're feeling vulnerable in this moment in your new hometown of Las Vegas, what would you say is your opening for an old lead from 8 years ago?
If I get somebody on the phone, I usually just introduce myself. Hi, my name is Vanessa. I work with KW VIP. I was just giving you a quick call. I noticed that you had been browsing some homes on my website lately, and I just wanted to check in and see how your home search is coming along.
Okay. Check in and see how your home search is going. Okay. Okay. And who else? Shelly, do you listen to calls? Thank you so much, Vanessa, for sharing.
I do. Yeah.
Do you know the opening of most of your?
Yeah. Hi, this is X from the Highland Group. I'm calling to check in about your real estate search in Prescott. How are things coming along? Are you still looking to buy a home in the Prescott area?
Okay. Do you ask 2 questions or 1 question?
I would say a lot of them would probably go with the latter. Are you still looking to buy a home in the Prescott area?
Okay. And what do they get usually?
No. We're not interested.
And is this an old lead or a new lead?
This would be probably, these are the old leads. I was kind of still in the archive on that process.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. We're almost there with that one. That's a good framework there. Do you say the Heron Group?
The Highland Group is the name of our team.
The Highland Group.
Or EXP Realty would be like, especially calling old leads. We try to use more of like the EXP Realty framework, just in the sense that like they haven't been marketed to by us for a while. The Highland Group would be more likely to be used with newer leads because we've already like sent them an intro video and an email that says like, you know, they've been searching on our site more frequently or more recently. So we use that branding as like hopefully an opener.
Yep. There we go. Good. Would anyone else like to share before we go to our next slide? All right. So Ashley, hopefully you're going to giggle with this one. So I'm hoping you're going to giggle with this one. So when we call people, there are some words that we are going to avoid. We are going to avoid follow-up. We are going to avoid check-in, and we are going to avoid touch base. The reason we're going to avoid those words is because those words are about us. And when we are in sales conversations, we need to make the conversation about the other person. So if you look at Phil Jones's 4 cornerstones of conversational excellence, he says the worst time to think about what you're going to say is in the moment that you're going to say it. The good news is that we're all here and we're working on what we're going to say. Number 2, curiosity is a fuel for all great conversations. So we're going to go inch wide, mile deep and ask some deeper questions. Number 3, which is the point I was getting to, is people do things for their reasons, not yours. So when we say to other people, I was just following up, I was just checking in, I was just touching base, it makes the conversation about us. So when we enter into a conversation, we want to make sure that we are making the conversation about them. And then the 4th cornerstone is the person who asks the questions controls the conversation. Now, prior to doing some work with Phil, I will tell you, I used to ask big, hairy, open-ended questions at the beginning of every single conversation. And then I used to say, how are you? Please don't say that either. You might get a lot of different answers. If you are calling someone out of the blue and they are not expecting your phone call, we need to make sure we are clear, we are concise, and we are simple, because we have about 30 seconds to catch their attention in the middle of whatever they were doing, to interrupt them, to remind them of the thing that was once most important to them, which was, i.e., buying or selling a home. So what we're going to do is we're going to tighten up a little bit. Vanessa's in a hot minute. So she can get more conversations with the leads that she has. So the opening, which is your name and your company, which is, hi, this is Andrea with XYZ Company. Not it's Andrea Francis Stephanie Ferry Daniels with Keller Williams Realty in Exton, Pennsylvania. I'm not announcing myself like the Queen of England. We do that for 2 reasons. Number 1, they're not expecting your call, and we need to be clear, simple, and concise so they can absorb it. Number 2, you want them to forget who you are in case you decide to call the lead again in 4 weeks. I'm sorry, I think we're all great here and we're great on the phone and people love us. However, we are not the main actor or actress in the story of their life. We are literally the barista at Starbucks along the highway. So we want to be memorable when we get into the call. We want to be forgettable if they happen to be having a bad day. Like most Americans, every 3rd day is a tough day. So we might be catching them on a bad day and not take it personal. Call them back in a few weeks. So number 1, your name and your company, clear and concise. Now, as an example, Vanessa, you said very quickly to me, KWVIP. That was a lot of letters. Do you really say Keller Williams Realty or Keller Williams VIP? Or
I usually just say Keller Williams.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I might add realty on the end, because if I'm in the middle of painting my house, I might have heard Sherwin-Williams. So I'd put that realty at the end, or with a local real estate company. Okay. So, and then our mutually agreeable fact is something that you and I can agree to, which is, you had previewed some homes on our website in the Las Vegas area now, Vanessa, depends on if you can see what they're looking at or if they were looking like 3 years ago. You might say, hey, you had been looking at some homes on our website, within the last year or 2. Out of curiosity, you could say, is owning a home in Las Vegas still a priority to you? Or if it's 8 years old, I might say, did you already find a home? Yeah. And if they said yes, please don't hang up the phone. Let's get excited for them, because they're a future seller for you, because people move every 7 to 10 years. Could be different in Vegas because it's Vegas. If none of you have read the NAR report from 2024, please go read it. There's a lot of good information on there. Only operations people, Shelley, might read it, but it's really good information. Now, Vanessa, if it's someone who's been looking on online recently and you can see their search pattern, I might say, hi, Vanessa, this is Andrew with Keller Williams Realty. I saw you're on our website recently looking at homes in the Fort Meade area. Is that the only area that you're browsing? I didn't say buying in. You can say considering, because then they'd be like, oh, because you just said they're browsing. Now, it can be, like I said, there's no silver bullet. You might be like, is that the only area you're thinking about? Is that the only area you're interested in? Is that the only area that you're considering? Is that the only area you're browsing? You can use any 4 different versions of those. I like to test material. i.e. auto plans, to see what people respond to. You can also use that in a text message. Because what we're going to do, Vanessa, is we are going to subtract check-in. We're going to say our name, mutually agreeable fact, which is you're looking at some homes on our website, and then an easy to answer question. Because what happens is if we ask them a really big question and they're not expecting our phone call, it's not easy for them to answer the question. From a show of hands here, who got a really big email or text message and they're like, I'll respond to it later? All of us. Let's make it easy for people to answer us. And Phil's book, while he says it's, 34 magic phrases, it's really it's really not magic words, but a number of principles for persuasion and influence, disguised or camouflaged as magic words. Because if he taught you 30 plus principles of persuasion and influence, you'd ask him for examples. So he taught the material through the examples. So the words aren't magic per se. It is how the words speak to the subconscious mind. And when we ask them an easy to answer question, which they can give you yes or no, or I already bought a house, or I'm no longer looking, whatever they say next, we have permission to get the conversation. Oftentimes we try and fast forward that conversation into something a little more advanced. But we need to start by getting into the conversations, whether it's text, email, phone call, with an easy to answer question. So I'm going to pause here and see if anyone has any questions so far, because I know I just dropped a lot of information.
Sounds awesome so far. I'm tracking.
You're tracking. All right. Vanessa, you tracking? All right. I also like this for, we're going to do this as a team here. I also like this for expired. Say, for example, hi, Vanessa. This is Andrea with XYZ Brokerage. I saw that your home recently came off the market. Or take out the I and say your home recently came off the market. Out of curiosity, if you would have gotten a really good offer, would you have taken it? If you would have gotten a really good offer when you were in the market, would you have taken it? So I don't say expired. Please don't say expired. It reminds me of milk. Your house recently came off the market, or I saw that your home recently came off the market. And then an easy to answer question. Out of curiosity, if you were to have received a really good offer when you were on the market, would you have taken it? That is a yes or no question. So Shelly, you have a pensive look on your face.
No, I'm concentrating.
Versus, when are you ready to hire the right agent for the job of selling your home? Who's that about? That's about me. Yeah. We need to make their question about them.
That's a distinctive change that I really like. It's how do you make the intro or the conversation about them?
Yeah.
Nothing to do with us.
Yes, thank you. Paul in the chat, if you're open-minded to me being a little sassy, Paul, I'm not sure what state you're from. I'm from Philly. When I look at that message right now, 1, 2, 3, there's 3 I's in there. Hi, I'm a professional realtor in the area. I'm not sure if now's a good time, but I was hoping to ask you a quick question about the home on Main Street. Would that be all right with you? So if you're open to it, Paul, I'm going to shorten that for you. I do like where you're going. I like labeling professional realtor. In something that Phil talks about is words are either hurting or helping. So I want to make sure every word counts. I don't know if that is for a for sale by owner or expired. If I'm going to reframe what you have, I might say, hi, name. The reason for my call is, or hi, name. I'm Paul, a professional realtor in the area. And I'm not going to say I'm not sure if now's a good time, because we all walk around with these things called cell phones. If we don't want to pick it up, we either ignore the home phone or we hit the red button and send people to voicemail. So let's assume that since we're all walking around with $1,000 computers called our cell phones, that we don't need to ask if now is a good time. I'm not saying not to use it ever. I'm taking what you're saying and making it more concise. So, hi, Paul. This is Andrea. I'm a professional realtor in your neighborhood or in your area. Okay. I see that your home on Main Street is for sale. Would you have time for a quick question? To me, can I ask a quick question that's easy to answer that's not asking if I can ask a quick question? So, Paul, if you want to put in the chat for me what that lead source is, whether that's expired for sale by owner or circle calling, unless you're just calling your farm, which would be different. So I do have a question on that one. I'm happy to answer that one for you, Paul. Expired. Okay. Paul, if you can put in the chat for me, what is the quick question that you're going to ask them? Because that's a lot of filler there. And if they're getting a lot of expired calls, whether it's a new one or an old one, I'm assuming a new one, I want to be clear and concise. So I might say, hi, Vanessa, this is Paul. I'm a professional realtor in the area. The reason for my call is that I have a quick question about the home on Main Street. You could say, are you the homeowner? Is it still available? Those would be good questions, and it makes it a lot less wordy. And then depending on what they answer there, depends on what they go to in the next question. So that's how I would make that one a little more concise. Like I said, not everything's a silver bullet, but it takes that and it makes it more intentional, especially if you only have 30 seconds. Oh, I like that. I might be like, out of curiosity, did the home sell yet? Or out of curiosity, are you still accepting offers? Now, I wouldn't say, did the home sell or are you still accepting offers? I call that leading the witness and multiple choice options. I'd ask them one question with one answer, or with one, did you sell or are you accepting offers? Because typically when you ask people two things, they only remember the second thing, and could be possible, Paul, that it's something different than one of those two. Well, the home didn't sell and I'm not accepting offers. We need to make sure we leave room for them to answer the next question. So I'd be like, did the home sell? Or if I had said, and they say, well, no, I'd be like, okay. And then I can go to my next question and say, okay, out of curiosity, are you still, you could even, actually, I might go, are you still accepting offers? And they'd say, no. I just want to make sure, Paul, they don't say to you, do you have a buyer who would make an offer? So are you still accepting offers? They would say, no, we decided not to sell. And you'd be like, okay, you decided not to sell. Help me understand. And you go on with your next question. So I would ask them one of the two. Okay. So we went through Paul's opening fact question. That was a little messy, Paul. We can play with that if you want to reach out to me on Instagram or email or text message me offline. Is there some context that I still want to gain there? What other people can we help you with? Who else here on the call can I help you with an opening fact question with an old lead source?
Trying to think. We covered old leads. Let's just, can we jump right into a brand new lead? Like somebody just inquired on the website.
Sure.
Maybe you can see that they're searching like what we were talking about earlier, but they're just not picking up the phone.
Okay. So if they're not picking up the phone. So I don't know what your auto plans look like. Shelly, the reason I'm giggling is I just did a presentation a few weeks ago. 90% of people will read your text message within the first 5 minutes. Because we're made to call people and we're salespeople, we prefer to talk to them on the phone because we know it's a much larger conversation. So could we get them to respond and warm up the conversation on text message if that's how it had to be? So if I were to call a new lead that came in and they're not picking up, I would call them once, maybe double dial, not leave a message either time, call later in the day. I'd also have a text message and an email that goes out that has an opening fact question, which might be, hey, Shelly, this is Andrea with XYZ Brokerage. Thank you for registering for our website to see homes in Philadelphia. Is that the only area that you're interested in? And I'm not going to say, you ready to buy? You pre-approved? How long have you been looking? Do you have an agent? I'm not going to do any LP mama stuff because I need to court them and slow down the conversation to speed up the outcome. I need to get that person to open up to me. I mean, for anyone who's on the call here, the last time someone showed up and tried to sell something to you, did it bring you closer or further away in the relationship? Further away, right? So when someone shows up like a stereotypical salesperson, we become pushy and not pulley. We want to be able to enter in the conversation slowly and ask questions to get them to open up. Right?
I like that.
Yeah. So I might say, and I actually put in here, if there is a bigger name like Zillow, homes.com, I might say something like, hey, you looked at some homes on our website back in 2023 on Zillow. Out of curiosity, did you find a home yet? Because Zillow is a much bigger name than Andrea Ferry, Rookie to Rainmaker. Everyone knows Zillow, right? So if we can co-brand with a larger name that comes from Chris Smith's book, The Conversion Code, we can always co-brand that mutually agreeable fact with a larger name like Zillow or homes.com. Now, if it's Real Scouts or Street Text, if the lead's really, really old, they might not even remember that website. A home value lead. They registered to receive an instant home value through your Real Scout site. Oh, these are fun. Allison. Oh, I love these. You know why I love these, Allison? Because we try and show up for a listing appointment. So let's give them what they want so we can get what we want. So I might be, hi, this is Allison with XYZ Company. I saw you're curious about your instant home value through our website. Have you done any upgrades in the last few years that would significantly increase the value? That's a yes or no question. Now they want to know how much their house is worth. So I think they might be interested to answer that question because we said significantly increase the value. We didn't go for a listing appointment. We didn't ask them when they were selling. We didn't ask them where they're moving to. We just asked them a small piece of a micro question to help them get an accurate home value. And they might say, well, I just want to know an instant home value through, okay, yeah, I'm happy to provide that. Of course. And then you ask the question, have they done any upgrades? If they say no, I might go one way in the conversation. If they say yes, and I'd be like, great, what have you updated? And they're going to tell you what they updated. And then I might say next from there, Allison, depending on how the person is on the other side of the line, is what do you understand about which rooms in the house really increase the home value? Because we know, they don't know. It's kitchens and bathrooms. Typically, they might think they put a heated floor in the bathroom and they should get $50,000 more for their house. So we need to show up and ask questions so we can get them what they want by showing up and helping them get what they want. Not, yes, Allison, I want a listing appointment. I want a seller. But if a stranger's calling them, we need to make sure we help them get what they want before we get what we want, which is the answers to our questions and ideally a transaction at some point.
That's such a game changer. That whole framework is just so great. And I think would help so many salespeople in my organization and people I've come across just because it's so common to come with the I framework as far as like a lot of sales training I've been a part of. But it makes complete sense that you could have such a better time getting someone to talk if you can really just tap into like them and what their needs are.
Yeah. I mean, someone came on for an instant home value request. They didn't come on to be prospected by a salesperson.
Totally.
However, you're welcome, Allison. You can even, there's even auto plans, which Shelly, I'm sure you look at the back end of CRM saying like, hey, before I send this over, and you asked us in an email, if you didn't get them on the phone, Allison, ask them an email or text message. Hey, before I send over the report, would it be helpful? Could you share if you've had any major renovations in the last few years? And say, for example, you have a database and the market report goes out before you have that conversation. You could say in a follow-up email, even though we're not saying follow-up, hey, were you able to preview the report that I sent you? That's a yes or no question. Not when can I come over and see your house and see if it's accurate. It's were you able to get the instant value report? On a scale, how out of curiosity, on a scale of 1 to 10, how accurate did you feel like it would be? Like, let's focus on what they're coming to us with, and we can eventually unravel if they're thinking about selling. All right. So here's some examples that are on the screen. Hi, this is name with company. When we spoke last year, you said you were considering buying a home in the Houston area. Is that still a priority for you? Apologize for the misspelling. And then another example is, because I want to make sure I go through examples with people who are on the call. Hi, this is name with company. Thank you for coming to our wealth building seminar. Did you have a chance to review the materials that were sent to you? So these are really simple formulas to get into conversations. And we have to remember, before we can get into the larger conversation, it's micro little asks to lead us to the bigger conversations. And oftentimes we try and cover too much ground in one question. That's probably the biggest, I don't want to say the biggest offense that I see is we ask really big questions and don't meet prospects where they're at. People maybe transact every 7 to 10 years or more. We're in the real estate industry every day, so we need to ask small questions. And my biggest advice before I go to the next slide and we answer some questions here is anytime you want to tell someone something, especially if you know that they're wrong and you know that you're correct because you're the expert, I'm going to ask you to take your statement and make it a question. So instead of throwing up on top of people that when interest rates go down, there's more buyers in the market and house prices go up and they'd be paying about the same, I might say, what do you understand about what happens when interest rates go down? They're going to tell you whatever they tell you. They might say, oh, well, you know, more people want to buy a house. Okay, what do you understand about what happens when more people want to buy a house? Well, then there's more people out shopping. Okay, well, there's more people out shopping. What do you understand about when more people are shopping? There's more of a demand. What do you understand about what happens to house prices? Prices go up. Right? But that was 4 or 5 questions. I used one phrase, what do you understand? We can't tell them that it's silly to wait for interest rates to come down because then there's more buyers in the market, then house prices go up. They don't want to do that. Multiple offers, 2022 all over again. We need to ask them through a series of small questions. I'm happy to stay for the rest of the 15 minutes, Shelly, and answer any questions we have. That's my LinkedIn, website, Instagram, all sorts of fun stuff. I am here to answer any question that's in the chat or anything that anyone wants to come off mute and ask. So if we're reviving dead leads, I feel free to use it in text message, email, make sure the email subject line creates curiosity, or it's a phone call. If it's something that's an old lead, let's see if they're still thinking about buying and it's a buyer, for example, Vanessa. If they say we already bought, we say congratulations, continue the conversation. And to me, Vanessa, that could be your future seller. I haven't done this in a number of years, Vanessa, and this isn't any Phil Jones teaching, I might say, oh, congratulations, you already bought, have that conversation with them. I used to say, you know, now that I have you on the phone, you know, with interest rates dropping slightly, who do you know who maybe had thought about becoming a homeowner, but they're not sure right now? Like, I still try and get a lead from someone who already bought and sold on a call because I am already on the phone, right? So it's like, why not ask for a referral? But I'm not saying who do you know is looking to buy, sell, invest. I'm describing who I'm looking for. Who do you know is another phrase. Keller Williams, that's where I was a recruiter for a number of years, Vanessa. They taught us to say, who do you know is looking to buy, sell, invest? I would imagine all brokerages teach that. So instead, let's talk about who do you know who's maybe swimming in square footage, who can no longer take care of their property, who maybe is tired of the rental rates going up in Vegas and like they're not sure about first-time home ownership programs where they can afford a house. Like, describe that. Ashlyn. Oh, I used to be an inside sales agent. I also had no real estate experience. Yeah. Oh, so you are good. You debt collections. Oh, yeah. I would say, Ashlyn, check with Janice and either say the Janice Sam's team or Crowley Realtors. I'd shorten that because that's a lot. I might say, hi, this is Ashlyn with Crowley Realtors or the Sam's team, a local real estate team. So I'd definitely talk to Janice Sam's because he or she might get mad if I'm giving you advice, but I would do one or the other to make it more concise. So I would do Ashlyn with the Sam's team, local real estate company. This is Ashlyn with the Janice Sam's team. and then go on with your mutually agreeable fact. Or this is Ashlyn with Cry Leak Realtors, and then go on with your mutual fact. And I get that most people want their team name stated. Remember, these people aren't expecting you, and we have about 15 to 20 seconds for them to absorb everything we're saying. All righty. What questions do you have for me?
I just thought of one. I spaced it. Just give me 1 second. Just going to ask you about. Oh, do you have a great opener? Well, you made me think of this when you were asking for referrals, but like calling past clients. So we have like a huge past client database, and we've just recently started working with someone who's calling those past clients on a regular basis. The agents are asked to, but like our team lead, for instance, he has hundreds and hundreds of them, and he just is having trouble getting to all of them. So what's your best framework for a past client?
I'm going to spitball some ideas. Are you ready?
Yeah.
I'm not tied to any of them. These are your choice to take back to your team. So it also depends if the agent knows them. So I'd like to actually get into a conversation about the client and the house and how they're doing. Okay. I'm not going to start the conversation asking for a referral. At the end of the conversation, I might say, could you do me a quick favor? They would have to say yes.
Yes.
Or I can say, one more thing, Shelly.
Okay.
And I'm going to say, who do you know? You could do it a few ways. And I got a seller from this particular script before I knew Phil. I might say, hey, listen, Shelly has some new listings in the Sicklerville area. Say that's where you live.
Uh-huh.
Who do you know who has, been searching for a house for a little bit, but really hasn't found the right neighborhood?
Awesome.
Okay. So I might do it on some listings that we have. I might say we have an event coming up for first-time home buyers. Who do you know who is tired of renting, who would like to know more about some of the state programs available, are worried about their down payment, aren't sure if they can swing it with their credit score? I would start describing who that person is.
Yes.
And if this person was a buyer, it'd probably be a buyer. If it's a seller or someone who sold, are they still in the area? Did they downsize? So if it's a seller, I might say, who else do you know who's been thinking about downsizing for a little bit and really hasn't pulled the trigger yet because they're not quite sure where they need to go, and they're starting to think about some of the decisions they need to make?
Right.
Possibly thinking maybe, because when we use who do you know, we're looking for a introduction. We're not looking for a solution, Shelly.
Right.
We're looking for an introduction, not a solution. Also, something that I like to do, and I'm going to giggle if any of my clients are on this call, people like to give their opinion. So, hey, Shelly, this is Andrea with XYZ Company. We're reaching back out to all of our past clients. We're having some events this year, and I would like your opinion. How open-minded are you to sharing it? Yes, I'm open-minded to sharing it. Great. We are thinking about doing a July 4th party where everyone brings, a potluck. We're thinking about doing a wealth building seminar, people who thought about investing, but they're not sure where to start. We are thinking about doing a trunk or treat in the parking lot. And then we're thinking about doing a seller seminar with people who are like 1 to 2 years out from selling, and they're not quite sure what to do on the punch list in their house and where to put their money. See, I just did 4 different events. 2 were fun, 2 were about me. You can make up whatever they are.
Yes.
And people are going to be like, oh, I'd want to go to this. But remember, I said, they're 1 to 2 years out thinking about it, not sure where to invest their money, if they should really do that bathroom over. It's kind of it's a gray area.
Yeah, exactly. And a great sort of way to get them talking.
And when you ask them, when you describe it that way and ask those questions, they go in and they start thinking about people they know.
Yeah.
It's like me asking you, hey, Shelly, what agent do you know that's been in the business maybe under 3 years? They haven't quite broken through the ceiling, but they're looking to get a little more traction. And maybe their skill set is maybe a 6 or 7, but needs to be a level 10.
I
And you
can
think
I
that would
have a
just
list right off the top of my head. Yes, exactly.
right? You got to describe exactly what you're looking for, because if you don't know who you're looking for, how are you going to find them?
And the
We don't
conversation,
work with everybody.
it's too ambiguous. Yeah, it's like, well, who was it that said 2 months ago that they were looking for a house? Yeah, I agree. That's good.
Right. So so we want to be intentional when we're calling our database, and we want to be specific. And Vanessa, if they let you call their past clients and you're like, hey, here's some ideas, which one can I execute? Maybe they'd be open to it.
I'll tell you that it's been highly successful for this person who's calling, who, she doesn't necessarily have a framework outside of what our team lead set up, which is similar to this, but I think we could make just a few tweaks to it. And she's been super successful in just getting like some great conversations had, which has turned into transactions. So
I love that. Is she an inside sales agent or a new agent?
she's had a little bit of experience with inside sales with our team in the past. She's actually the owner's sister, so she has another role, but she's talented on the phone, so she's back.
Oh, I love that. Is she in an operations role or a sales role?
Sales role.
Sales role. I'm going to ask you one more question. Is most of your database METs and referrals, is that where most of you get?
We do a lot of online lead gen, and so no, not. I mean, our sales makeup is about 40% past clients and referrals, but about 60% of our database our sales makeup is online lead gen and other lead gen that we do.
Cool. Okay, I might have an introduction for you after this call based on that. That's what I was
Awesome.
asking.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm really looking for talented ISAs.
Funny that you said that. I used to recruit and train them. I still train them. I don't recruit them like I used to. I got a text message yesterday with someone who has experience in phone sales looking for a role. So Shelly, we are definitely talking after this call.
Awesome. I love that. Sounds good.
Awesome.
Well,
All
this has just been super, super valuable. I really appreciate your time, and the frameworks here have been incredible just in the way that you developed everything and the way that you presented it, because I think all of us got really actionable takeaways, and even people watching the recording for many years into the future will get some great stuff out of this. So thank you very much again for being with us, Andrea.
Hopefully I get better in the future. Have a great day. Thank you so much.
Thank
Shelly.
you so much.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
all. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.